And movie fans, the first topic I'm going to discuss is news of of a new trailer dropping for the creator. Now, I can't wait for this movie. It's directed by the guy who did Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, which is the only new Star Wars movie that I love out of the Disney era stuff. He also directed The Guy's Little Movie from 2014, which I personally love. It's actually my favorite of the MonsterVerse movies. Like, the only negative thing I had of that movie was that killing off Bryan Cranston was a mistake, in my opinion, because much as I love Aaron Taylor Johnson, his character was fine in the movie, but I didn't find his character as compelling as Bryan Cranston's character. But otherwise, I love that movie a lot more than other people did. So I can't wait. I'm excited to just see him back directing movies again. He disappeared after Rogue One: A Star Wars story. Like, he didn't direct anything after that. But I thought the trailer was fantastic for this movie. It visually looks great. The story looks really good, and I'm a sucker for like those type of sci-fi movies. So it just the trailer looks really great, and I know, and I think this is gonna be one of those movies that unfortunately I see a lot of general audience not going to see it. Like, it's one of those type of sci-fi movies where I just don't think it's gonna do well at the box office. I hope I'm wrong. And if you haven't checked out the trailer for the creator, check it out because I think this movie looks really good. It's one of my most anticipated movies. So I thought this was a great trailer. The next thing I want to discuss is news that the Godzilla vs. Kong sequel panel canceled, Dune 2 panel canceled. And I always say on the past video that pretty much all the studios aren't going to this convention, to the upcoming San Diego Comic Con. And it sucks because the whitest actors choice, obviously you can't, you're not going to be able to have actors there to promote the movie. But yeah, hearing all these panels canceling, it sucks. I think this is probably going to be. I mean, the good side of it is that they can actually focus on comics since it is called Comic Con. So there's the good side of that. But as far as the movie side of it, yeah, this is probably gonna be the Comic Con where you're not going to see a lot of movie news, trailers, and all that. So it sucks as a movie fan. And I mean, I still think it's worth putting on a Comic Con for the comic stuff because I'm a comic book person too. So, but as a movie fan, this does suck. The next thing I wanted to discuss is that Mission Impossible opened to 56, but it made like 230 globally, worldwide. And I know the budget for this movie is like I think 291, so probably like over 300 if you count in the marketing. And this is a good opening. But the reason why I'm not worried about this movie is because you look at the Mission Impossible track record. Like, I think the biggest opening it had before this was 61 for Fallout. But it went on to make like 700 in the high 790 area or something like that. So this is a franchise that always seems to have like a modest opening. Like, I think this is the second highest opening for the Mission Impossible franchise. I think the opening below this was like 55 for one of the other ones. So this isn't really a franchise that opens big. So I'm not surprised by the opening. And the reason I'm not worried about it is that Fallout only made 61, and there was like another one that made 55 that ended up making like over 600. So this is the type of franchise to me where it has legs. Now, obviously, one thing I'm worried about is that this budget. This movie had the highest budget out of the franchise. At 291, you added in marketing stuff with 300. And I know this movie. This wasn't one of those movies where they went in wanting to spend a ridiculous amount of money like some other movies this year. Like, it sucks for this movie because it was the buzz went out for this movie because of COVID, where it had to stop production, begin production, stop production. So this sucks for this movie because it wasn't one of those movies that they were trying to spend a ridiculous amount like some of these other movies lately have been. It just was because of COVID. They had to stop and go production, so that affected the budget. But yeah, that a little bit. I have a little bit worried that, and then plus you have Oppenheimer and Barbie coming out next week. I know Oppenheimer's projected to make between 50 and 60. Barbie's like 80 to 100, and they could definitely postpone, especially if the reactions are really good for those movies. Because I know Oppenheimer's been getting good reactions, and I think Barbie's going to be a big hit. But I do think But like I said, the two things I'm not worried about with Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is that it's getting a great response. Now, I haven't seen the movie. I really want to see it because I'm a big Mission Impossible fan. But it's been getting great response review-wise from the critics and audience. It's a franchise that's been consistently quality-wise for a lot of people great when it comes to the quality of the movies. And like I said, it's a franchise that's known to have legs. Like this franchise kind of reminds me of Avatar, where Avatar doesn't have like the biggest opening in those movies, but they have legs at the box office. And I think Mission Impossible, despite the competition, despite the buzz, I do think it will have legs to make enough money to break even and maybe even a little bit more. So I'm not as worried about it based on the track record of this franchise, but it seems to have a track record of just modest openings, but it seems to be able to have the legs. And I think they keep it the quality. I think the word of mouth is definitely going to have people going back to see this movie multiple times. So that's why I'm not as worried. Next thing I want to discuss is apparently the Blue Beetle cast said James Gunn actually saw like an early screening of it where he got to see the movie, and he said he really enjoyed it. He was saying it did a great job of capturing the family element because I'm really excited for Blue Beetle, and just hearing this makes me even more excited. And look, I know he said he called I remember when he called The Flash one of the greatest movies, and I love that movie. But it obviously, it got kind of a mixed response to the last movie. Not everybody loved that. The guy's like a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes with critics, so some people there will definitely a group of people that will lukewarm on that movie. But this does make me more excited for Blue Beetle, and I like the fact they said they did a great job with the family element. Because I think the one thing that separates this movie from other comic book movies that we've seen from the trailer is that I love the idea that the family is involved like right away. And it feels very much like the story focused on him trying to protect his family, not really the world. So I like the idea because it makes it feel a little bit different from other comic book movies. And I do think you need to do that with comic book movies lately is have them feel like they stand out. But just hearing this makes me even more excited. So I can't wait for Blue Beetle personally. The next thing I wanted to discuss was Bob Iger saying he's going to be cutting down on Star Wars, and I know you already said he was going to cut down on Marvel stuff. I think that's a good idea, especially with Marvel. I think they need to cut down on the Disney Plus stuff, definitely. And because I think the problem that Marvel's went into since the Infinity Saga, and why they've kind of gotten a hit and miss response with the Disney Plus shows when it comes to Phase 4 movies and right now the Phase 5 movies, is because Kevin Feige has been spread way too thin. I mean, when you're trying to tie in the TV shows plus the animated shows with What If, I know they have the X-Men 97 show coming at some point, Freshman, and What If supposedly only going to last 2 more seasons when we wrap up the multiverse saga. I think trying to tie in all those shows and animated shows and the specials with the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special and the Werewolf by Night Special, I think trying to tie them all in has just made it to the point where Kevin Feige just can't be on every project like he used to be. So I do think you need to cut it down. He was talking about how it diluted the Marvel movies with all these Disney Plus shows. And I can see a little bit of that. I mean, I don't think that's the main thing. I think it also has to do with the quality. I've loved a lot of Phase 4 and 5 stuff more. I would say the biggest disappointments for me were Ant-Man and then Anthony Watts Quantum and Thor and Love and Thunder, the only two movies on the Phase 4 and 5 side that I was lukewarm on. And then, I've actually loved most of the Disney Plus shows outside of She-Hulk, where I thought it was okay up until the finale, but hated the finale. And then Moon Knight, where I loved it up until the finale, but the finale sucked. And those shows also have the issue of just what I think that them doing these short episodes and shorter seasons isn't working. So I think I don't agree with Pylana. This is the only reason why Phase 4 and 5 just haven't been clicking as much as the Infinity Saga was for a lot of people. I think it has to do with the quality too, just not hitting as consistently as it was for the Infinity Saga. But I do think they need to slow down and just kind of. And same with Star Wars. I think the thing with Star Wars at the time when they were trying to do all these like story movies like Rogue One and Han Solo, and then lately doing all these Disney Plus shows, I do think they needed to kind of slow down on the Star Wars stuff right now with the Disney Plus shows too, because I want to see the movies back on screen, but I don't want them to like do too many Star Wars movies. So I agree with Park Ryan. I don't agree that's the only reason, but I agree that they need to slow down on the amount they're putting out with Star Wars and Marvel right now. And hopefully that means the quality will get back consistently more for those franchises. The next thing I want to talk about is, and this is a rumor, so don't, this isn't official news. This is some rumor I saw online. And the reason why I don't really like to talk about rumored stuff, but the reason I want to talk about this is because this rumor would this if this rumor happens, this would be really exciting for me. Is that there's a rumor going around that the Thor director, the director who directed the first Thor movie, is gonna do a live action Gargoyles movie. And the reason I want to talk about this rumor, there's been nothing to say this is true or this isn't official, it's just a rumor, is because Gargoyles is one of the anime series that I love. I grew up with Gargoyles the last 3 seasons. And it's a show where I always thought, man, this could make a great live action movie. And him being the rumored choice is interesting to me because you look at the first Thor movie, it had a Shakespeare element towards it. And you watch Gargoyles, the stories actually, part of the story takes place in the past, but it has kind of a Shakespeare element in the show. So it kind of, I just think that's interesting that the first Thor movie kind of had a Shakespeare element like the Gargoyles show did at time in the past. And I just think this would be a great choice if this rumor turns out to be true, because he's a great director. I mean, he loved the first Thor movie. He did Cinderella, which I loved. So, and just as a Gargoyles fan, I would love to see a live action Gargoyles movie someday. I think that show is a great show. And I think it actually told a lot of mature stories in that show too. So I think there's a lot you could pull. There's a lot of story you can make into a movie with that show. So I think this would be, if this rumor turns out to be true, I think this would be a great choice. But I also just think the idea of doing a Gargoyles live action show would be really cool, especially as a fan who loves that anime series. So that's all the movie news. Until next time, movie fans.